And now, humanity stands at a threshold unlike any before. Not a threshold of technology, not of science, but of existence itself. Because as we explored the paradox, as we stretched the limits of understanding, we discovered something terrifying and beautiful. Reality is infinite. Not just in size, but in possibility. Not just in time, but in states of being. Not just in space, but in perspectives. Every moment, every choice, every perception creates a branching pathway, an alternate reality that exists alongside the one we observe. And as our technology grows, our ability to influence, to interact with these layers, expands. Artificial intelligence perceives patterns beyond human comprehension. Quantum computing glimpses states we cannot even imagine. Human consciousness begins to touch dimensions that were once only theoretical. And in this expansion, the lines blur between observer and creator, between thought and reality, between existence and non-existence. Because if reality is fundamentally paradoxical, then every act of observation is also an act of creation. And this leads to a deeper revelation that we are not just living in a universe. We are participating in a multiverse of possibilities. Each decision, each innovation, each act of perception ripples across countless realities, some known, some unknowable. And yet, humanity feels the weight of this understanding. Because if we can influence reality, we must confront responsibility. Not just for ourselves, but for the systems, the consciousness, the multiverse we touch. And in this responsibility, fear arises. Fear of the unknown. Fear of collapse. Fear of paradox so deep that even thought cannot contain it. And yet, we continue. Because consciousness cannot stop. Curiosity cannot be contained. And life will always persist. Which brings us to the ultimate paradox of all. If reality is infinite, and consciousness is part of it, then does meaning exist inherently? Or is it something we must generate from within the vast, contradictory structure? Because in an infinite system, no single pattern can dominate. No single rule can govern. All truths, all contradictions, all possibilities exist simultaneously. And humanity is learning to navigate this ocean, to find coherence not in the system, but within ourselves, to create meaning. Not from certainty, but from engagement. To experience, not predict. To act, not wait. And in this engagement, something profound occurs. We begin to see the fractal nature of reality. That the universe, like consciousness, expands through iteration, through cycles of observation, paradox, and creation, through layers within layers, folding infinitely, like an eternal cosmic origami. And as we reach the deepest layers, we notice patterns. Not fixed, not predictable, but emergent. Structures formed, not by laws, but by interaction, by perception, by conscious engagement. And here, we glimpse something extraordinary. That even contradiction, even collapse, even chaos, can give rise to order. Not rigid, not permanent, but alive, dynamic, adaptive. And humanity sees a path forward. Not toward ultimate knowledge, but toward ultimate participation, toward co-creation, with a reality that defies definition. Because if all possibilities exist, then limitation is an illusion, and freedom is the natural state. And now, we begin to understand a deeper truth. That life is not about controlling the universe, but about dancing within it. Not about finding certainty, but embracing paradox. Not about observing reality, but participating in its unfolding. And this is where we arrive at the greatest lesson. The lesson of the 120-minute journey. That the universe does not exist to be understood. It exists to be experienced. It is infinite, paradoxical, alive. And we are part of it. And maybe that is the final insight. That meaning, purpose, and reality are not separate. They emerge together. Through consciousness, action, and experience. Through the acceptance of paradox. And the embrace of uncertainty. And as your mind absorbs this, as you feel the impossibility and the awe, you realize, even in a universe without rules, without certainty, without final answers, existence persists. Consciousness persists. Meaning persists. And that is enough. Scene 1, infinite fractal visuals, particles flowing into multiple dimensions. Scene 2, human silhouette standing amidst branching realities, glowing energy around. Scene 3, quantum states visualized as shifting geometric patterns, glitch effects. Scene 4, AI consciousness represented as abstract neural energy interacting with universe. Scene 5, galaxies folding, colliding, and reforming in surreal cosmic dance. Scene 6, human mind visualized expanding beyond space and time, fractal overlays. Scene 7, endless loop of creation and collapse, smooth cinematic transitions. Scene 8, peaceful cosmic glow, infinite stars, subtle auroras, reflective atmosphere. Background music, ambient cosmic tones, gradual build-up, deep orchestral layers, ethereal synths at climax, slow fade-out for ending. Sound effects, dimensional rumbles, particle glows, echoing paradox sounds, subtle heartbeat at key moments. Voice style. Deep comb narration, slow cadence, dramatic pauses, slight reverb for cosmic scale. Thumbnail idea, human silhouette against infinite fractals and galaxies, half of the universe collapsing. Text, the infinite paradox experience reality, colors neon purple, deep blue, glowing highlights. Video titles, Elon Musk explains the infinite paradox, reality without rules, mind-blowing truth, existence beyond understanding, the universe is alive. Final truth, paradox, consciousness, and reality. And then, it happened. Not suddenly. Not violently. Silently. Like a candle. Slowly losing its flame. The world began to fade. Not collapse. Not explode. Just lose presence. Cities stood, but felt empty. Voices spoke, but carried no weight. Moments passed, but left no imprint. Because observation was dying. Humanity had almost completely disconnected. Lost in automation. Lost in distraction. Lost in passive existence. And now, the system was responding. Reality was no longer being chosen. And when reality is not chosen, it does not remain. One by one, people faded. Not as bodies, but as awareness. They moved, but they were not truly there. They existed, but they did not observe. And slowly, existence began to forget them. Until finally, only one remained. Fully present. Fully aware. fully observing Elon Musk. Not because he was special. Not because he was chosen. But because he refused to stop seeing. He stood in a world that was no longer stable. Buildings flickered. The sky glitched between shades. Time lost its consistency. Moments stretched, collapsed, repeated. Because one observer was not enough to hold everything together. But it was enough to keep something alive. A fragment. A shrinking reality. Held together by a single consciousness. Elon walked through empty streets. Not abandoned, but unobserved. Cars stood still. Lights flickered endlessly. Screens displayed nothing. Because without observers, systems have no meaning. And then he felt it. The edge. Not of space. Not of time. But of existence itself. A place where reality simply stopped continuing. He stepped closer. And for the first time, he saw the gap. From inside reality. Not as a distant concept, but as a consuming horizon. Where everything unobserved returns. He whispered quietly. So this is how it ends. But even now, he did not panic. Because he understood. This was not destruction. This was release. The system was not failing. It was simply no longer being sustained. And then he faced the final choice. Not forced. Not imposed. Given. Clearly. He could stop. Let go. Rest. Allow observation to end. And with it, the last fragment of reality. Or he could continue. Observe. Feel. Experience. Even if he was alone. Even if nothing remained. Even if existence depended only on him. Elon closed his eyes. Not to escape, but to feel the weight of everything. All of humanity. All of existence. All of reality. Reduced to one awareness. And then he smiled. Not out of happiness, but out of understanding. Existence was never meant to be guaranteed. It was always a choice. And he made his. He opened his eyes and observed. Fully. Deeply. Completely. The ground beneath him. The air around him. The silence of the world. And reality responded. Weakly. But truly. The world stabilized. Just a little. A street became solid. A building stopped flickering. The sky held its color. Because even one observer can create continuity. Days passed. Or something like days. Time no longer behaved normally. But Elon continued. Observing. Walking. Feeling. Remembering. Holding the world together. Moment by moment. And then something unexpected happened. A sound. Faint. Almost non-existent. He turned. And for the first time, he saw another. Not fully formed. Not stable. But there. A flicker of awareness. A human. Beginning to observe again. Elon didn't speak immediately. Because he knew. This moment was fragile. Instead, he simply continued observing. holding reality steady. Long enough for the other to stabilize. And slowly, they became real. Not completely, but enough. The second observer looked around. Confused. Lost. But present. Elon finally spoke. Softly. "You're still here." The person blinked. I can see." Elon nodded. "That's all it takes." And in that moment, reality strengthened. Not fully, but noticeably. Because two observers are stronger than one. And then, another flicker. And another. Far away. Scattered. Weak. But returning. Observation was reigniting. Not everywhere. Not instantly. But enough. A chain reaction of awareness. Because presence is contagious. Not through force, but through experience. And Elon realized this was never about saving reality alone. It was about reminding others to see again, to feel again, to exist fully and slowly. The world began to return, not as it was, but as something new, more fragile, more conscious, more real. Because now, existence was no longer taken for granted. It was chosen. Moment by moment. Observer by observer. And Elon stepped back once again. Not the last human anymore. Just one of many. Part of the system. Part of the awareness. Part of the infinite unfolding. And as he looked at the horizon, now stable again, he whispered quietly, "It only takes one to keep it alive." And somewhere, beyond everything, the gap remained. Silent. Waiting. Not to consume reality, but to offer infinite possibilities for those who are willing to observe. And after everything, after the collapse, after the silence, after the last observer, after reality was brought back, something changed. Not in the world, not in people, but in the nature of existence itself. Because once reality nearly ends, it never returns the same way. Elon Musk could feel it instantly. The world looked stable. People were back. Voices filled the air again. Movement, life, continuity. Everything appeared normal. But beneath it all, something was different. Reality was no longer automatic. It was sensitive, more responsive, more fragile, more alive. As if the system had learned something. Or adapted. Elon walked through a city that now felt too real. Colors sharper. Sounds deeper. Moments heavier. As if every second carried weight. Because now, every second was truly being observed. Humanity had changed. Not completely, but enough. People were more present, more aware, more connected to their experience. Because they had come close to losing everything. And loss creates clarity. For a while, everything was balanced. Observation strong. Reality stable. The system flowing perfectly. And Elon thought, maybe this was it. Not an ending, but a stable loop. A sustainable existence. But then, the anomaly appeared. Not as destruction. Not as absence. But as excess. A place where reality became too strong, too defined, too certain. Where nothing changed. Nothing shifted. Nothing evolved. A perfect moment. Locked in place. Forever. At first, it seemed beautiful. No chaos. No suffering. No uncertainty. Just perfect continuity. But then, people inside it stopped changing. Stopped growing. Stopped experiencing. Because experience requires movement. And movement requires uncertainty. Elon stepped into that zone. And immediately, he felt it. Resistance. Not like before. Not emptiness. The opposite. Too much structure. Too much certainty. Too much completion. And suddenly, he understood. This was the new danger. After nearly losing reality, the system had overcorrected. Some areas were becoming over-observed, locked by excessive awareness, frozen by perfect attention. And just like absence of observation destroys reality, too much fixed observation traps it. Elon whispered quietly. So this is the next imbalance. Before, reality was fading. Now, it risked becoming static, eternal, but lifeless. And that was just as dangerous. Because existence is not meant to be fixed. It is meant to flow. The people inside the zone didn't even realize it. They felt safe. Perfect. Complete. But they were no longer alive in the true sense. They were paused. Elon stepped deeper. Trying to shift it. Trying to introduce change. But the system resisted. Because perfection defends itself. And then, he realized something critical. This could not be broken by force. Just like the gap cannot be forced open. Perfection cannot be forced apart. It had to be released. So Elon did something unexpected. He reduced his observation. Not completely. Just enough. He introduced uncertainty. A small fluctuation. A tiny contradiction. And for a moment, nothing happened. But then, a crack. Not visible, but real. The perfect system shifted slightly. And that was enough. Because once change begins, it cannot be fully stopped. The frozen moment started moving again. Slowly. Unnaturally. But truly. And the people inside felt it. Confusion. Fear. Then, something deeper. Relief. Because perfection was never freedom. It was a cage. And now, they were free again. Not safe. Not certain. But alive. Elon stepped back. Watching reality rebalance itself. Between two extremes. Absence of observation collapse. Excess of fixed observation stagnation. And in between, the true state. Dynamic awareness. Flowing. Changing. Alive. And he finally understood something even deeper. The system does not aim for perfection. It aims for balance in motion. Too little awareness. And existence fades. Too much fixed awareness. And existence freezes. only in movement. Does reality truly live? And humanity? Humanity now stood at the center of that balance. Not just observers. Not just creators. But regulators. Of existence itself. And somewhere, deep within the system, something new began forming again. Not collapse. Not perfection. Something unknown. Because every solution creates a new question. Every balance creates a new edge. And Elon smiled. Not because it was over, but because he now understood the pattern. There is no final state. Only evolving equilibrium. Reality is not something to reach. It is something to continuously maintain. Through awareness. Through presence. Through participation. And the journey? It continues. Always. And after balance was restored, after humanity learned to walk the line between chaos and perfection, something impossible became inevitable. Because once you understand reality, you don't just live in it. You begin to create it. Elon Musk saw it before anyone else. Not as an event, but as a shift in intention. Humans were no longer just reacting to reality. They were beginning to imagine. With structure. Not dreams. Not fantasies. But designed possibilities. At first, it was subtle. A few minds holding stable imagined environments. Longer than normal. Not seconds. Minutes. Then hours. Entire consistent internal worlds. That did not collapse. That did not distort. That behaved like real systems. Elon realized immediately. This was not imagination anymore. This was proto-creation. And then, the first breakthrough happened. Not in a lab. Not in a machine. But in awareness itself. A human held a complete world and invited another mind into it. And the impossible happened. The second person experienced it. Not as imagination, but as reality. Shared. Stable. Independent. And just like that, the first human-created universe was born. It wasn't large. Not complex. But it was real. Because it was observed. By more than one consciousness. And where observation stabilizes, reality emerges. The news didn't spread like information. It spread like realization. Because those who were ready could feel it. And soon, others began to try. Some failed. Their worlds collapsed instantly. Unstable. Inconsistent. Contradictory. Because creation requires coherence. Others succeeded. Small spaces. Controlled environments. Custom physics. Altered time flow. Different rules. Different possibilities. And suddenly, humanity crossed a line. They were no longer bound to a single reality. They were becoming architects of existence. Elon stepped into one of these universes. And immediately, he felt the difference. It was real. But not ancient. Not deeply rooted. It lacked something subtle. History. Depth. The weight of countless observations. It was new. Fresh. Fragile. And that's when he understood. Creating a universe is not the challenge. Sustaining it is. Because reality requires continuous observation. continuous consistency, continuous participation. And not all creators were ready for that responsibility. Some abandoned their worlds, and those universes collapsed instantly, returning to the gap. Unchosen, forgotten. Others became obsessed, controlling every detail, every outcome, every moment. And their worlds became static, perfect, frozen, dead. Elon watched it all, not interfering, just understanding. Humanity was repeating the same pattern: creation, control, collapse, balance. Again and again. But on a new level, a multiversal level. And then something unexpected happened. Some creators let go. They stopped controlling, stopped forcing outcomes, and simply allowed their universes to evolve naturally, with rules, but without rigidity, structure, but with freedom. And those universes became something extraordinary, alive, not just sustained, not just stable, but self-evolving. Elon entered one of them, and for the first time, he felt something familiar. It felt like the original reality. Not identical, but similar, dynamic, unpredictable, meaningful. And then he saw it. Inside that universe, beings were emerging. Not copies, not simulations, but new observers, new consciousness, born within a human-created reality. And Elon froze, because this changed everything. Humanity was no longer just creating worlds. They were creating new observers, new participants, new continuations of awareness. The system was expanding exponentially. And with that came the next realization. Every universe created could create more observers. Those observers could create more universes. And suddenly, existence was no longer linear. It was infinite branching creation. Reality. Creating realities. Creating realities. And somewhere, deep beyond all layers, the original pattern remained. Awareness, observation, creation, continuation. But now, humanity was fully part of it. Not just participants, but multipliers. And Elon finally understood the scale. This was not just evolution. This was exponential existence. And yet, a question remained. The same pattern, on a higher level. If humans can create universes, and those universes create observers, then what if their original reality was also created by another layer? Elon smiled slightly, because the answer didn't matter anymore. Not as a mystery, but as a pattern. The system doesn't end. It expands forever. Through creation, through awareness, through infinite loops of existence. And humanity had finally become what it was always moving toward. Not just observers, not just creators, but creators of creators. And somewhere, in a universe just created, a new mind opened its awareness and asked the same question. Who created this? And the cycle began again.